Alright, hello there everyone, and this is Quit Lit by John. Today we are going to be talking about character types. Now there are 7 common character types. These are flat, round, dynamic, static, stock, foil, and confidant. The first 4 are used to describe fairly specific characters, while the last 3 are used to describe generic characters that can be found in most stories. So the first distinction that we're going to be looking at is whether a character is round or flat. Now, this has usually been decided beforehand by the author, and basically it has to do with how many details are included about each character, which characters are most important, and how these details of these characters adds or detracts from the story. Round characters are characters that are described in depth with lots of details. Thus, they are called rounded characters because they are well rounded. Usually, the primary protagonist in a story is round, and when you are reading a story and you feel like you know a character extremely well, then it is very likely that that character is round. Flat characters, on the other hand, are characters which are not described well. You could almost say that we only see one dimension of that character. Thus, they are called. A best way to understand the difference between a flat and a round character is to think of characters as drawings. If you look at the first picture on the slide in front of you, you can see that it's a picture of a house. Unfortunately, we can only see one side of it. We can't see what's round the back or what the garden looks like. All we can simply see is the fact that there's a house with a door and 4 windows. In the next picture, we have again a picture of a house, but this time we can see 2 different sides of the house. We can see the front and the side. Thus, we can understand if there is a garden round the back or round the sides, if there is grass, etc. This is the same rule that applies to when discussing as to whether a character is flat or round. A flat character means we only get to see one side of them, whereas a round character allows us to see lots of different aspects of his or her personality. As a reader, try to judge whether a character is round or flat by writing down characteristics of the character. Try and answer the questions, what do you know about the character? If your list is long, with lots of characteristics, then the character is round. However, if it is a short list with not many characteristics on it, then the character is flat. The point to be made is that round or flat is not necessarily an on or an off switch. Rather, it is more of a thermometer. A character can be more round and less flat, or more flat and less round. But never both at the same time, obviously. Next point to decide is whether a character is static or dynamic. When discussing static or dynamic characters, the key words that we are looking for here is change. And to be more specific, we are only interested in internal changes which occur within the character. Internal changes include a change in his personality, a change in his or her outlook on life, or a change in his or her values. Or perhaps it could be a change in the overall nature and personality of the character. Try not to focus on what happens to a character, but rather focus on changes that happen within a character. Try and think of how the events that take place in the story affect the characters internally, how they may affect their motivation, their thoughts, and their feelings. The next example we're going to be looking at is what is termed a static character. Now, obviously, static means to not move or not change. And for a character to be considered static, they basically must remain the same throughout the entire story. And the character doesn't go any internal changes. He keeps the same personality throughout the entire plot. Think of static characterization like plastic surgery. Whilst the character's looks may change, his or her personality is unaffected, and thus the character is static. A dynamic character, on the other hand, is a character who undergoes an internal change between the beginning and the end of the story. And usually, this change within the character's personality is crucial to the story itself. For example, if we look at a race car driver who gets involved in an accident, if the character's personality changes due to this accident, the whole story, the whole plot could be based around this change. Thus, we could say that the character is dynamic, because at the beginning of the story, he enjoyed race car driving. However, due to the accident, he decided that he didn't want to go driving anymore. Thus, he is a dynamic character. When looking at whether a character is static or dynamic, try to answer these three questions. How does the character feel about himself or herself? How does the character act towards others? And what are the character's goals? Examine your character throughout the story and keep asking these questions. Try and determine whether the answers to these questions change throughout the duration of the story. If the questions have not changed, if the answers have not changed, then there is no change within the character. However, if the answers have changed, then the character is dynamic. Now, we're going to look at the three other types of characters, the first of which is entitled a stock character. Now, a stock character is a special kind of flat character who is instantly recognizable to most readers. In other words, he is a stereotypical or typecast character. Some example of these would include the ruthless businessman, the shambling old white-haired librarian, the donut-eating policeman, the dumb jock, etc., etc. And these are not focus characters within the story, but rather they are used to fill background roles and help progress the plot. The second type of the character is called a foil character. Now, a foil character is a special kind of character who is used to enhance other characters through contrast. In other words, the characteristics within a foil character would be the opposite of the characteristics within one of the protagonists of the story. Some examples of this would be the mean stepsisters in contrast to Cinderella's quiet, kind character. Note that these are not focus characters, nor are they developed in the story. They just help us to learn more about another character or another aspect of the story. Finally, the confidant. Now, the confidant is a special kind of character who the main character uses to confide in. And by confiding in him, the protagonist reveals their own personality, thoughts, and feelings, both to the confidant and to us, the reader. The purpose of the confidant is to help us learn more about the emotions and the inner drive of the central or main character. So I hope that this presentation helped you all understand the characterization better, and perhaps you will be able to apply these rules in further presentations.